face has dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a new week of Soccer Down Here. Lots and lots to get to on the week of December 9th. It all starts tonight in a lot of ways. The 2020 season starts tonight for 5 Major League Soccer teams with the Concacaf Champions League draw that will be held in Mexico City. It starts at 9 o'clock. You can watch on TUDN. You can watch on Concacaf Go if you are outside the United States. There are other partners as well. Doesn't look like there is a dedicated English language option in the United States. I hope this is something that Concacaf and networks start to sort out here, because this tournament will benefit from that type of coverage. But this tournament's a big deal regardless of the level of coverage, and we'll get into all that all day today. We'll talk about it on Soccer Over There in pretty deep detail about the potential teams Atlanta United could be drawn with. But yesterday was a big day in the Atlanta United history books. John Nelson will be joining us here in a bit. His phone hates him, as usual. But yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of Atlanta United's first MLS Cup. And I kind of wondered what it would feel like. I wondered what it would be like in the Atlanta United communities on Twitter and on Facebook and different places. And it was really interesting to see, Mike Conti tweeted at me early in the day and said that it didn't feel like it was that long ago. But when I went back and watched the game last night, I had it on the DVR and pulled it up, and it was on. I watched in detail in large stretches, and it was kind of on in the background in others as I was working on other things. It did feel like a long time ago to me in a lot of ways. It's such that crazy situation where there's some elements of it, seeing Miguel Almiron in the Atlanta United shirt and the effect that he had on that team. Tata Martino on the touchline, stuff like that feels like forever ago. But then there's other elements of it, and how it felt emotionally, and it did feel like a couple months ago. It was very cool to see everybody share pictures and videos and tell stories about their day. Luckily, the weather yesterday was a little bit better than it was a year before, because that was a wild day that I'm very thankful that Arthur Blank built Mercedes-Benz Stadium with a roof on it, because that would have been a miserable final if it hadn't had it, although I think the way it worked out, everybody would have been okay and been pretty heated anyway. But it was a pretty special anniversary of a big day in Atlanta sports history, and seeing the different folks share it. If you haven't read Mike's look back at it over at 929thegame.com, please go check that out. Really well-written piece just about what it felt like, some of the behind-the-scenes, some stuff I didn't even know that was in there. Mike and I try to keep our broadcasts, and same with John and I, and same on Oglethorpe games when I'm working with Jessica Charman. We try to keep it as organic as possible. We're not going through a bunch of scenarios. Well, if this happens, then you do this, and then I'll do this. No, we don't do it that way. I don't know if others do. We just don't. So it was kind of cool to hear some of the things from Mike behind the scenes about advice he was getting and how much he was thinking about certain things to say. On my end, the only thing that I thought about, and it was probably around the same time that Mike said in his article that he started thinking about, all right, how am I going to handle this? About 10 minutes after that second goal, where it didn't feel like Portland had a way back into the match. It felt like it was under complete control. And that was really the thing about the whole match, but even more so after the 2-goal lead and there wasn't an immediate response from the Timbers. You start thinking about the things you want to hit. And for me, a lot of it builds upon itself. It wasn't like I had this written down as to things I wanted to say in case. It was just things that, I had been talking about all year, that Mike had been talking about all year, that were common threads. You know, I mean, a lot of people going into that final said that Tata Martino couldn't handle a final because of what had happened with Argentina in the previous two Copa Americas. And, you know, he was at Barcelona and didn't win a trophy with that team. And you were going back to his Newell's Old Boys title in Argentina as his last trophy that he won. So there were people questioning his ability to get it done in that moment. Parkhurst had been to 4 MLS Cups. You know, you start to wonder. People were asking those questions about Parky. And then, of course, the Miguel Almiron saga. I think it was pretty well understood that was going to be his final day in an Atlanta United kit at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So, you know, in my post-game wrap, there were all those threads that were going through that, you know, weren't rehearsed, but had been in my mind as the game was starting to come to a conclusion. That, you know, those three guys especially, those moments were very important for them, for their narrative, for their legacy, and it was important to note that. That was a crazy situation all the way around. I mean, you know, I'd never called a championship game before, not in, you know, especially, you know, not in front of 70,000 people, and who knows how many people were listening at home and in their cars and it's around the world. So you have to kind of block that out. And the video that, you know, I retweeted yesterday that Jimmy Vance posted from the booth, where Mike nearly launched me out of the booth. It was close. I had my footing. I had my balance. I didn't realize until Katie Weaver pointed it out that was when I was going through that segment that MLS clipped and used in their documentary footage of the game. I never realized that. I wondered why I was so locked in and focused and not spinning around and doing that. I couldn't put my brain back into my body in that moment to remember exactly what I was thinking. But yeah, as Katie Weaver pointed out, you could hear the audio, and it's that segment. I went back and watched the documentary too, and you could hear the clapping in the background when I was talking. So, it's funny that it was after all of that. It was when we went to a break that I was like that in the booth. I think, at least that's what I remember. So it's weird how things happen. And for me, a lot of the emotion, I know a lot of people, the emotion hit right at the final whistle. Seen, you know, tons of videos of hugs and crying and all of that. For me, it was, you know, in the post game, in different parts where we were talking. I mean, we went on for not quite an hour and a half, but pretty close. It was different points of that. Honestly, maybe the first time that it really got me was after we finished everything up at the stadium and got home and couldn't sleep because I was wired. You know, turned the game on that night or that morning, because by that time it was. And hearing how loud the crowd was, because sometimes watching the game on TV is a completely different experience for me than being there and calling it. And the volume and intensity of the crowd was something that really got to me watching it back, and it did last night too. The other couple of things that stood out to me, you know, both from my memories from the day and watching the game back, I do remember the moment where I really started to get a little emotional. And I don't think it came across on air as much because I was trying to hold it. It was when they were doing the trophy presentation, and Katie Witham tossed the mic over to Don Garber, and Don Garber was speaking and talking about Arthur Blank and what he had done. And the camera from Fox cut to Arthur, and you could see him biting his lip, really trying not to cry. And he was so close. That was, I think, what actually got me going first on that night when that came across. And then, yeah, that was the moment where you could, you know, I think going back and watching it too, like, I didn't notice everything from the broadcast calling it that night, all the different celebrations, all the different moments, but the different, very personal, moments that Arthur had on camera. I mean, you could see it from the broadcast with Parkhurst before the trophy part, which was another one, but with Parkhurst, with Miguel, with Barco, it was very cool to see those moments for everybody. So yesterday was that 1 year anniversary. Hopefully, and I know this is Atlanta United's goal, there will be other anniversaries to add to the list very soon. But very cool to hear everybody's recollections of it, to see all the different videos again. I think it'll be a day that will, kind of always be celebrated in the Atlanta United world. As the day that first major trophy. Don't want to discount the Eastern Conference Championship trophy. You don't want to leave that one out. But first major trophy that keeps getting counted was acquired by Atlanta United. Going to take a quick break. Hopefully, John Nelson's phone is working. I think it is. There have been signals that he is with us. So we're going to take a quick break and see if we can wrangle him up and talk a little CONCACAF right after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. December 9th. Somebody's phone is now working.
Yeah. Vicious rumor.
Yeah, and he comes in and he's like, are you looking at people.com or something? Is that where your day is at so far? You come in with all the gossip. It's like it's the E network or something.
No, I was looking on our Twitter feed for what folks were overreacting about, and I see trends for you, and it's Kirk Douglas and Rikishi. Over in the right-hand column, as you're looking at your Twitter feed,
you're getting these trends. That's kind of scary.
The right-hand side of our network Twitter feed, trends for you: Rikishi, Kirk Douglas, Monday Mood, and Todd Phillips.
Okay.
I don't know. I have to actually click and sit here and go, okay, Todd Phillips. What's a Todd Phillips?
Oh, and geez, here we go.
So
John doesn't know it. Forget it. It's all over.
Yeah. And apparently, okay, so the Golden Globes nominated Todd Phillips for Best Director. Okay. And Kirk Douglas turned 103 today, and apparently Lizzo's outfit at the Laker game is being compared to Rikishi's in-ring outfit. And so that's what's trending for me for some reason.
All right. Well, there's John's entertainment update. You can get those at 16 minutes past the hour every morning here on Soccer Down Here. No. Let's get to the Scotiabank Concacaf Champions League. The draw is tonight in Mexico City. It starts at 9 o'clock. So for those of you who listen to Soccer Over There, we'll be live normal time, 6 to 8. We're going to take a little break, have like a late dinner, and get ready for the draw from Mexico City. We're going to hang out at the Brew House. If you want to come up and watch some soccer over there, hang out, chat, join the conversation, please do. We'll put you on a mic. You can talk about your favorite team, your favorite league, whatever is on your mind. But we're also going to talk a lot about CONCACAF Champions League in the second hour of the show. Going to run through what the teams look like in Pot 2. That's who Atlanta United will be drawn with in the round of 16. We'll get into all that detail. We'll have a reaction show of some sort, after the draw happens, a quick one that'll go up on the network late tonight. But come up and hang out with us at the Brewhouse Cafe. We'll be there starting at 6 o'clock for Soccer Over There. But, John, let's go through the basics of what people need to be expecting tonight. So this is the draw for the bracket. This is where teams will get slotted into it. Your round of 16, potential pathway past that to the final is laid out. Schedule-wise, February 18th, 19th, or 20th. That will be Atlanta United's first competitive match. It'll be on the road in the first leg of the round of 16. The return leg here in the Atlanta area will be between February 25th and 27th. Then we know the team is headed to Nashville on the 29th. Then the first leg of the quarterfinals, if Atlanta United gets past the round of 16, will be between March 10th and 12th. Second leg between March 17th and 19th. And we don't know what the order of that will be just yet. Actually, I'm not 100% sure if we are locked in to Atlanta United being on the road in the first leg. I don't think that is locked in. We'll see how CONCACAF does the draw. It's sometimes a little, take your guess as to how this is going to go. But Pot 1, these are the teams Atlanta United cannot be drawn with. Your MLS opponents, LAFC, Montreal, New York City, Seattle. Your Liga MX, 3 teams of Club America, Cruz Azul, and Tigres. Not going to be drawn with any of them. Pot 2, where Atlanta United could be drawn with 2 teams from Costa Rica, Saprissa and San Carlos. 1 team from Jamaica, Portmore United. 2 teams from Honduras, Olimpia and Motagua. 1 team from Guatemala, Comunicaciones. 1 team from El Salvador, Alianza. And 1 team from Mexico, León. All the teams have had different kinds of seasons. So going through just the basics of CONCACAF and league formats, anybody who tries to tell you that nobody else in the world does playoffs, they're lying to you, and not just because of Mexico, because everybody's doing playoffs in CONCACAF outside of Jamaica. Now, some of them have some really interesting playoff formats. Honduras is a crazy one. But Jamaica, actually, no, I take that back. Jamaica has a playoff, but Jamaica doesn't do the Apertura Clausura type of split season that everybody else is doing. But they have a playoff. So Jamaica, what they do, this is what Portmore has to deal with. And right now, Portmore's not having a good season. Portmore is the team that, based on current form, you want to be drawn with because they're in 7th in the Red Stripe Premier League in Jamaica right now. So the Jamaican League, you got 12 teams. You play each team 3 times. So that's 33 games. After those 33 games, the league's split into half. The top 6 will go into a playoff to win the championship. The bottom 6 go into a relegation fight. So, it's a crazy format. And then beyond that, go ahead.
I'm trying to take notes on all this. I mean,
Don't. It's all good. It's crazy. The main thing you want to know, because this is not Jamaican soccer down here. This is soccer down here, and we're talking about MLS and Concacaf Champions League. The main thing you want to know is Portmore United right now is 6-7-3 through 16 matches, and they are at the top of the bottom half of the league. That's the team that is in the worst kind of form coming in. León is the best team on paper, and they had a good season in the Apertura in Mexico. They finished second in the overall table, 9-3-6, but they were knocked out in the quarterfinals by Morelia, who was knocked out last night in the semifinals by Club America. So León had a good season, but a bad finish. That will be something to watch for, as well as their top player, Jose Juan Macias, is back to Chivas after his loan ended. So they don't have all of their firepower coming back. The other teams, when you look at current form, Saprissa, very strong. They won the CONCACAF League this year, so they were the best of the Central American teams in CONCACAF. They went 12-6-4. They finished second in the Costa Rican League. They were knocked out in the semifinal round of the playoffs, though. So not quite at their usual strength, but good. San Carlos, not as good as they had been. They finished fourth in the table in Costa Rica. They were knocked out in the semifinals of the Costa Rican playoffs. They're starting their preseason for the upcoming season in Costa Rica tomorrow. That's the time frame we're talking about here with a lot of teams in Central America. Alianza, they were knocked out in the semifinals of the CONCACAF League. They are in the semifinals of the El Salvador League. They play on next weekend in the first leg of the semifinals. Then Comunicaciones, they were knocked out in the quarterfinals of CONCACAF League. They finished the league season in third place in Guatemala. They won on Sunday 1-0. So they finished 11-5-6. So it was very crowded at the top. So they'll be going into the quarterfinals next weekend in the Guatemalan playoffs. Motagua and Olimpia. The Honduran playoff format is the most unique one. So this is one I hope MLS does not ever try to ape. This would be a really interesting one. So, all right, you have your season, and they have the top 5 teams advance to the postseason, and it is the pentagonal. So it's a group stage, 5 teams. So you're playing everybody once. I believe the higher seed hosts the game. So you're playing 4 games in the postseason. If the team that won the regular season wins the pentagonal, then they're the champs. If they don't, the team that won the regular season plays the team that won the pentagonal in the final. So Olimpia avoided that because they won the season. They won the pentagonal yesterday. They won their 31st Honduran title, and it was their first title since 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So it had been a little bit of a gap. It was on Centro America TV, and you talk about a raucous crowd. They're shooting off fireworks in the crowd in like the 85th minute because they've got the game sealed up, winning 4-0. Craziness. So Olimpia comes in feeling really good about themselves. Motagua, not quite as good this season. They were third in the Apertura. They needed to win on Sunday, hope for a loss for Olimpia. They needed a lot of help to get to a final. They didn't get it. So Motagua and Olimpia are your 2 Honduran teams. That's the wildest playoff format that I've seen so far. And who knows? Maybe MLS will take some notes and we'll have group stages in the playoffs.
I have a question and thought from the timeline this morning to get things kicked off.
Go ahead.
So from pot 2, if you were to rank teams that you would most want to play out of the blocks, if you're in pot 1, Portmore obviously would be team one that you would
Easy.
want to play the most in the opening round. Then who would follow from that?
From not going super, super deep into each of these teams, kind of looking at them at a base level, it would be Portmore, it would be San Carlos, because they're an older team and they're not bringing everybody back, and they didn't finish all that well in their most recent season, and they've never been here before. So I'm going to go Portmore, San Carlos as my top two. I'll take Comunicaciones next. Who?
I was going to say 3 would be Comunicaciones for me.
Okay. I'm going to take Comunicaciones next. Then I'm going to take... I think I'm going to lean towards Motagua, then Alianza, then I might take my chances with Saprissa instead of Olympia. A little bit of a toss-up. Just Olympia's feeling really good, and they're a powerhouse, and they've been in these situations before, so it's not going to be like too big for them or anything. Flip a coin between Olympia and Saprissa, because Saprissa's not at the level they've been. Alo Alense dominated in Costa Rica this season. Leon would be the top one, but they're not quite as scary as they've been, because a couple of their top players are likely not going to be back, and you don't know if they're going to be able to replace them in time to really have a huge impact in CONCACAF. So Portmore and San Carlos are the two you're hoping to draw, though.
And then Nathan Pugh comes in this morning and wants to know if we saw the Weeby article at MLSsoccer.com on his dream bracket. Shouldn't someone who, quote, works, end quote, for the league be biased to want an all-MLS final? Hashtag Overreaction Monday.
Yes, and this is where it gets really complicated from an editorial perspective. I don't really care about, like, dream scenarios or unrealistic scenarios. It's not something I've ever really wanted to dig into and spend my time on. So I'm going to spend my time more on who are the best teams, who are the teams you'd like to get drawn with. But I'm looking at it more from the competition. I mean, and that's what this competition deserves. This is a great competition. I think anybody who tries to tell you that playing in Concacaf Champions League is a waste of your time, like, no, stop. This is a big deal, and MLS teams need to perform better for it to be an even bigger deal. But for the Central American teams that we just talked about, this is historic for them to try to knock off either a Liga MX or an American team at this stage. And they are capable of it. It is not easy to go into these places. We've seen it in World Cup qualifying. We've seen it in CONCACAF before. It's not easy to go into Alianza in El Salvador. It's not easy to go in and play Comunicaciones in their house. It's not easy to go in and play in these places. So there's no guarantees. But for an MLS team, CONCACAF Champions League, and if you are Atlanta United, if you are LAFC, if you are Seattle or New York City, Montreal is a little bit different situation. They're, building for something under Thierry Henry. But for the 4 American-based teams, your goal should be to win this thing, flat out, because that's the goal for Club America, Cruz Azul, and Tigres. That's what they're here to do. They're not here to just be, go on a trip. Oh, it's such a pain to have to go play in CONCACAF. No, they're like, all right, we're going to go win the thing. We're going to go to the World Club Cup, and we're going to try to knock somebody off there. The MLS teams have to have this mentality. I think MLS as a whole has to have this mentality. This idea of, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this match happened? Or, oh, this is a lot of fun. Or this is not a big deal. Or this is just an exhibition. Or any of that kind of nonsense. It's got to stop. This is the measuring stick. This is official competition. This is an opportunity to do something that no MLS team has done in its current format. Something that no MLS team has done in terms of winning a CONCACAF trophy since the Galaxy in 2000. And DC in 1998, and that's it. This is something that has to be a priority. And, the road is there for your MLS heavyweights who are in this. Pot 2, you shouldn't lose. Even Montreal should not be going in thinking like, oh, well, we're in trouble. If Montreal draws Leon, they're going to be the underdog. Anybody else, they should not be considering themselves an underdog. And none of the other American MLS teams that are in this should be thinking anything about being an underdog, even to Leon. That mentality has to stop. Doesn't mean you go in and win. You still have to perform. Upsets happen. Every competition, you're going to get an upset. But the mentality of like, oh, we can't compete or whatever, that's got to stop. This is serious. You don't see this type of conversation around the UEFA Champions League or the Copa Libertadores. It's got to be the same here.
I was talking to folks last week, and I was trying to explain how big a deal this was. And these are Atlanta United fans who obviously they're new to Concacaf Champions League, and there was a concern about domestic performance at the same time that you're in Concacaf Champions League.
That's
and how
now.
and it's just how it affects you, just how it might impact winning a domestic crown at the same time that you're in a Concacaf Champions League competition.
Does Liverpool or Manchester City or Chelsea or any of the English clubs that are in the Champions League, does River Plate or Flamengo or any of the top clubs that are in the Libertadores, are they worried about that?
No, and that's what I was trying to impress upon these folks. It's like, look, this is a big deal. Because of how you can construct a roster, you can do both. That's what Liverpool does. That's what Spurs did last year in getting to the final. That's what all of these teams do in all of these international competitions. They build a roster so they can compete in both, so they can continue to win trophies and can continue to advance and do things that MLS teams have never done before. I mean, I was talking about the Club World Cup. If you win Concacaf Champions League, you go to the Club World Cup. That's a big freaking deal. So, I mean, that's what I was trying to impress upon folks, is that you can do both at the same time.
Well, using Tottenham's probably not the best comparison of you can do both, because that's what cost Pochettino his job. And you're dealing with a different kind of format. You know, every game does mean more in those leagues because you don't have a playoff. Here, it's a no-brainer that you go for CONCACAF because you can lose some regular season games and it's not going to kill you. Like, yeah, you might have to go on the road in the playoffs. Okay. If you're a top team, that shouldn't scare you. Like, it's not as easy to build a team that can do both. There's no comparison between Europe and MLS in that regard because you don't have as deep of a roster. But when you look at how close MLS teams have been at different points, don't tell me that you can't do it. RSL got to a final years ago. Toronto got to a final, took Chivas to penalties. Toronto should have won that. They had a bad couple moments in the home leg that made it more difficult for them. But the effect on your regular season is nowhere near what it is in Europe or in the Libertadores because you're in the round of 16 already. You're playing 2 games there. You're playing 2 games in a quarterfinal. You're playing 2 games in a semi. You're playing 2 games in a final. You're doing that in midweek where it will affect some league games, and you are going to have to make some decisions. Absolutely. You often see teams have a lighter schedule early who are playing in CONCACAF, or even games get rescheduled at times. That's happened too. So it's doable, but no, I'm at the point, and it's not an everybody in the same boat situation. It's not, because if you were Leicester when they went to the Champions League, were they thinking about winning the Champions League?
I would hope so.
So you think Leicester City, when they played in the Champions League for the first time ever, they had a legitimate chance of winning the Champions League?
I don't think they had a legitimate chance to win the Champions League, but I would think that you would go in with the mindset of, we're going to go in there, we're going to do our best and see what happens. You're not going to go, oh yeah, we're going to suck and we're just, we're going to get bounced in the group stage. No, I would think that you would want to do as best as you can. So you're going to go in with that mindset of, yeah, let's go in and win this thing. That's how I would look at it.
This isn't Pollyanna world here. Leicester City knows they can't compete on both fronts. That's the problem that some teams run into in Europe. They don't have the depth to compete on both fronts. So, and then for a team like Leicester City, when you start getting into the realities of European competition, getting back to the Champions League and consolidating your place and bringing in that revenue to continue to build, that's the goal. We've talked about it on Soccer Over There with Atalanta in Serie A. They had to make a decision after they lost a couple of games in Champions League. Like, are we going to go for these Champions League games and try to rescue it and maybe try to get into the Europa League? Or are we going to focus on league play, where if we finish in the top 4, we're going to come back to the Champions League, we're going to get that money, and we're going to be able to build a stronger squad? That happens, and that's okay. But that's not Atlanta, LAFC, Seattle, and New York City. That's not their mentality. Houston last year, completely different conversation. Houston didn't have a legitimate chance of winning Champions League or of MLS Cup last year. They knew that going in. Not Atlanta. Not teams that have a different level of ambition. Liverpool, when they're in the Champions League, they're trying to win the Champions League every single time. Now, as we've talked about all year long in England, what would Manchester City do if they got to a point where they're going to have to make a tough decision in a knockout round game about, all right, we have a tough league game coming up on the weekend, we have this game, how are we going to handle this? Well, now that's been answered for them. They're going to focus on the Champions League match. Yep. But what would they have done if they were in the running for both? Liverpool should have enough of a cushion to where they can focus on Champions League now, but you got to build that. For MLS teams, it's different. It's at the very beginning of your season. You have playoffs at the end. So you are worried about seeding, yes. But this is at the beginning. Supporter Shield means less now because of the schedule format. I think it's very difficult to go in and win Champions League and win the Supporter Shield because you will have some regular season matches where it'll take a toll on you. If you have a long travel on a Wednesday in CONCACAF, you come back, you play on the Saturday, that can be difficult. That's reality. But with playoffs and MLS Cup being the ultimate decider for Major League Soccer teams, you can handle it. And you need to. Because I think these teams, especially outside of Montreal, again, I don't think Montreal's going into this with realistic expectations of winning the Champions League. I think they have to think a little bit more about regular season play and how they're going to handle that. The others, no. The Mexican teams that are involved outside of León, and they're going to be in a different situation because they're in the other pot. The Mexican teams that are in this, these are big boy clubs. They're not worried about being able to handle it. They've done this before. Now, that's the only thing that is going to be a bit of a challenge for the MLS teams is Seattle's done it before. Seattle's had some issues in Champions League. It's also affected their regular season form early. They talked about last year. That was one reason why they got off to a better start than they had been, is they didn't have Champions League. All right, how are they going to handle that? And they're not very deep at the moment. Atlanta's been there. I think Atlanta learned a lot from last year, and Atlanta's pretty deep. LAFC and New York City have never been there before. So what's the process going to be like for them? And New York City is going to be doing it with a new manager, a new technical director. What's it going to look like for them? So there are question marks with the teams that are in it, but these are big clubs that have big expectations and big ambition. I think they're going to go for it. And I think they'd be foolish not to. And I will argue with people who say that you shouldn't take Champions League seriously because it's hard. Like, no, you have to go for this. You have to win it at some point. There's no excuse. You saw what Atlanta did in Campeones Cup, and don't try to tell me that wasn't taken seriously. It was. Does that mean every single player's not going to potentially rotate a little bit? Yeah, we saw Alec Cannon goal that day. Didn't matter. Club America went with their first choice. Did you see some subs at the end? Some younger guys come in? Yeah, that happens. That's how you do these things. But Campeones Cup, both teams going for it, Atlanta won. That was at home. Can they do that at the Estadio Azteca? We'll have to see. But you have to go for this. I'm completely against the idea that you don't go for it because of league play. The playoffs give you the cushion to go for it at all times in Champions League.
Shiva wanted to know if we're always going to start Concacaf Champions League before our first game of the season, and will that change?
It depends on MLS. It depends on how MLS wants to structure its league. I mean, you do have to factor in weather. You know, like Chicago is not going to be hosting games in mid-February. I mean, maybe you get lucky with weather one time, but in general, you're not having that. So, you know, at Comunicaciones, Olympia, Costa Rica, you're going to be able to host games in mid-January, so you can start your season earlier. The weather is just going to be a challenge. You know, I don't think CONCACAF is going to be able to push it back further, because right now the second leg of the final is set for May 5th, 6th, or 7th. If you go much further back, you're going to be getting into the very end, the final weeks of the regular season of the Clausura for these seasons. And what would you, if you are CONCACAF and you're trying to pick a spot in a calendar, what would you rather be closer to? The beginning of the season for these teams, including MLS, or the end of the season? You don't want to be at the end. You don't want to affect the playoffs. So I don't know. Maybe you could go back a week, but would it dramatically make a difference all the way around? I don't know. I don't know how MLS is going to be able to do this differently. I don't. I think you have to find a different way, and that's what I'm really curious to see what Atlanta United does with its preseason. I think you have to play, you know, as competitive of matches as you possibly can in the build-up to CONCACAF, because you're not getting the league games like the others are. They'll have, 4, 5 league matches under their belts before CONCACAF starts for them. I mean, as we said, some teams are starting their preseason on Tuesday. But I don't think there's really a way for MLS to do it much different. I mean, if you start the league season, let's say if you start it the weekend before CONCACAF, so you would be getting into league matches the week after the Super Bowl, February 15th, 16th. You could do it, but I don't think you could really go any earlier than that. And then you're still going to have to get creative with your scheduling, because you're not going to put certain teams at home. It's hard. I don't think there's another way to do it, Shiva. When you look at the schedule, I don't think you can really back it up too much. I don't think you can bring it down from a round of 16 and leave the MLS teams out for the first round, because you'd have to leave the Mexican teams out. I don't think you necessarily want to have more Central American, Caribbean teams in and then try to squeeze another round, because I don't think you could really go less than the round of 16 with these teams, unless what you did, and this is completely spitballing off the top of my head, unless you basically created a play-in round and you get to the final 8 being 4 from MLS and 4 from Mexico against the winners of the play-in round. And the Canadian team is probably going to have to go into the play-in round, and they're not going to be happy about that. So they're going to have to do it. Maybe you throw the lowest qualifying Mexican team and the lowest qualifying MLS team in terms of however CONCACAF seeds it. They have to go into the playoff round, and your CONCACAF league winner goes straight into the final 8, and somebody else does too. I don't know. I don't know how else you can do it. I think you're just limited by calendars and by weather and by league formats.
Katie Weaver this morning, speaking of anniversaries, I think I saw PT was at the Libertadores one-year celebration last night looking nostalgic. If we win CONCACAF Champions League, can we do a big pep rally, and would Frank de Boer sing? Hashtag Overreaction Monday.
I don't know if Frank would sing. Actually, maybe Frank would sing. I hope so, because that was awesome. Like, that was super cool for River to have that type of celebration. Now, you're not having that type of celebration just because you won the Libertadores. You're having it because you beat your crosstown rivals, Boca Juniors, to win it. Because you're hoping everybody that wears the blue and yellow of Boca is looking longingly at your celebrations at this. Yeah, that's what you're doing. That's a big part of this. Very cool Pitti was there, and these things are emotional for these guys. I mean, you saw Pitti at this. You saw Barco honored for Independiente's Copa Sudamericana win that Barco was a critical part of. You've seen Tito Villalba before at different things with San Lorenzo after they won the Libertadores. It's a big deal. And I hope that CONCACAF becomes that big deal for an MLS team. And it gets this type of reaction, and it gets this type of memory. I'm really hopeful that happens.
Discussing memories like you did in the first segment, I don't know if you got to talk about what Daniel Price and Shiva were discussing when it came to the MLS Cup win in the first segment.
No, I didn't.
Daniel said it was a little bittersweet yesterday, missed the feeling of being in those stands watching us when I was in tears as we were singing "We Are the Champions," #Overreaction Monday.
Yeah, that was another thing that really got me was how loud it was with that song. I mean, it's one of those songs that you've heard a million times, but to actually have it like be meaningful for you in that moment is pretty cool. It takes on a different meaning, and it has every time I've heard it since. You know, I'm transported back to that when it was so loud with everybody singing that. That was very cool.
And then Shiva, apparently her DVR deleted the game.
Shiva.
The parade is there, but the game is gone. I tried to see if I could find it on DVD to keep it as a memory, but couldn't find one online.
Yeah, I don't think it's available as a DVD. I don't think Fox has made that available to sell. Which, I mean, is, I guess, kind of common. Like, do they do DVDs of entire Super Bowl broadcasts anymore? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
They might do highlight things and stuff like that.
Celebrating the season with the New England Patriots.
Yes, I'm sure that's happened. But that's not what she was talking about. Like, a season thing is different. Yeah. I don't think it's out there. I don't think there's any way to see it. Maybe if you're creative on YouTube, you might be able to find it. I know at least one has been pulled down that was up, but you see games under different descriptions and things from time to time. I've found some things that have been a little surprising, so maybe it'll be there or it'll end up there. So stay tuned. I think it would be cool if MLS, and they've messed around with the Pluto TV MLS channel. Pluto TV is a free app with TV. It's got all kinds of random stuff on it, but they have an MLS channel that is definitely random. Like, it's just, it feels like they throw random things up there. They do throw like Extra Time and some of the different things that they produce themselves, but they just throw random games up there. I wish that MLS would look at expanding their app out like the WWE has with the network and put a programmed schedule up.
Yeah, put a grid out there.
Yes, put a grid out there and have specific things, but also have an on-demand of greatest matches, of profiles of greatest players, stuff like that. I think it would bolster what they're doing. I think they could probably get, a couple bucks subscription every month from people to do it. I would. If I had a chance to go back and watch, greatest MLS games or different things like that aren't publicly available now, absolutely. Be all in on it.
And for a league in MLS's position right now, where you have a lot of folks who want to pay a lot of money to have franchises coming into their cities, and MLS's interest is, I think, really the only league year to year over the last handful of years that still had increased growth when it comes to folks wanting to watch in some form or another, whether it's over the air or on demand or in person. I think that if MLS did something like that, you could continue to be ahead of the curve and continue that growth in those other places. If you did something like this, where the other leagues are stagnant, if not decreasing when it comes to all of their viewership across the board.
Yeah, but the other leagues have networks. I mean, that's the difference. Is the NFL Network, I think, is the gold standard for this, and if you're MLS, that's what you should be modeling after. But NBA TV does a really good job of becoming more and more impactful. Major League MLB TV as well. NHL Network, it's not on my cable tier. You have to go up a tier to get it, which is not a good situation to be in.
Right.
But I don't think any of them, they're doing it as the network part that MLS has to do it as too. But I think you can look at what WWE has done with the over-the-top angle and with the library angle that the others don't really take full advantage of. Now, I don't know what TV deals and stuff like that could do to affect it. I don't know if MLS can show these things. I assume that they can, because I know NFL Network has shown, old Super Bowls and other games in its entirety, like the TV broadcast from the 81 NFC Championship game, like stuff like that has popped up there. I don't think it's available on demand, and that would be the question. Can you do that? Can you set that up? Might be a discussion that needs to be had for the next TV deal, because I do think MLS could benefit from it. And with the world going over the top and digital and apps, you don't need to worry about what tier of cable you're on anymore. Just make it available for people within the app. If it's an MLS subscription that people are going to drop, $5 a month to have access to the archives. And for a lot of people, and this is one of the main reasons I would do it, would be to have access to the MLS Live archive all season long. If you make me go to ESPN Plus for games in the last 3 months, that's fine. That's cool. I mean, I'm already going to be there anyway because I need to watch the games live as much as possible. But if I want to go back because, I'm preparing for a match and I see that, all right, last time, Minnesota played a 3 center back setup was back in April when they played this team, and it was this trio, and that could be who we see this weekend. I'd like to go back and watch that game. Not just watch the highlights of it, but watch that match and see how those 3 interacted and see how it worked. You can't do that right now, not late in the season. So I would pay a little extra for that type of thing. If you can give me some historical stuff and you produce some stuff in-house to highlight the history of the league, I'd be all in. So MLS, when you want to create the MLS over-the-top network app and you need historical content or ideas for historical content, let me know. We'll talk about it and we'll get it done.
Hit the man up. James McClatchy in this morning, he says it's off topic a bit, but 38 regular season games in his mind is too many in a salary capped league when Concacaf games are added. Fatigue for Atlanta in the playoffs was obvious.
Well, nobody's saying you're going to 38 yet, so that hasn't happened, and that could be part of the reason. The salary cap part of it is not the issue to me, because the salary cap can grow, and it needs to, and the roster size can grow, and it needs to. It doesn't have to be this salary cap. So I disagree that the salary cap part of it does. The current salary cap makes it difficult. It does. And it did for Atlanta United. Injuries affected that too. And you could say that the injuries were caused by fatigue. And in Miles Robinson's case, it probably was. So, it's tough. But that's what happens late in the year in Champions League in Europe and in Copa Libertadores too. I mean, it happens. It's part of the game. So, for MLS, Champions League is just different because it's at the beginning. But these are things you have to manage. I do think that if MLS internally is setting the bar of we want to win Champions League, then the things that they have to do to make that happen are increased cap, increased roster size, which is key. And I really think one element of it that nobody else is talking about is if you have a second team, and this would motivate teams to start that second team, you would have the ability to bring up USL contracted players a certain number of times per season, not the emergency hardship situation that it currently is, but more like the 10-day contract or two-way contracts that NBA has, where you're in one of these spots and you're in mid-season and you're like, man, my guys have played 25 games already. I need to give somebody a break. I've got an injury here at this position. I can't turn to the backup, but I've got this guy who's on a USL deal, and he can play this match for me. I want to bring him up for this game. And you don't have to hit that stupid emergency hardship number that is very difficult to hit. It's only been hit like 4 or 5 times for field players in MLS history. It doesn't happen often. Happened a couple times this year for Sporting Kansas City. Somebody like Lawrence Wyke or Jackson Conway for Atlanta United 2, who's on a USL deal, not an academy player, because that gets into a whole different situation. If you can solve that problem, even better, because that's what South American teams will do, for example. That's what Mexican teams will do, for example. You bring up in the Liga MX, and you see it. You'll bring up one of the guys that's got a 3-digit number because they're on one of your younger teams, and you're going to give them a game in league play where you can make it fit. You're playing a lesser opponent. You want to give guys a break. That's how you manage minutes. It's doable. But I'm with James in the idea that the current cap and current roster size makes it very difficult to play a whole lot more games. But that's got to change anyway. Having a cap doesn't affect your ability to do it. It's the size of the current cap that's more of the issue. And for me, it's the size of the roster and the ability to expand the roster. USL players should be able to play for you if you own that USL team. Now, I know they want to, they don't want to allow teams to work around the cap and roster size, all that kinds of stuff. I get that. That's fine. But get it set up to where it is 4 times a year. They're limited to 4 games. Something like that. Do that and make it work. So then teams will have that option as well to be able to manage all of these games. CONCACAF has to be a priority, though. It has to be from the league level. If it's not from the league level, then teams can't take it as seriously, and you don't get these situations that would benefit the league. Winning CONCACAF Champions League would greatly benefit the league's perception. Playing in the World Club Cup would greatly benefit the league's perception. And I hope that they give teams the format to be able to do that here very soon. Let's take a break, come back. Hour number 2 on the other side. We've got some MLS news. We've got some rumors. We've got some updates from the U.S. Soccer Federation board meeting that happened over the weekend. Some different things came out of that as well. We're also going to hear from our buddy Jarrett Smith in the second hour of the show. Hang out. We'll be back right after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, December 9th edition. Getting ready for the Concacaf Champions League draw tonight from Mexico City. It's 9 o'clock. You can watch on 2DayNA. You can watch with us up at the Brewhouse Cafe in Little 5 Points. We're going to be hanging out after soccer over there concludes at 8 o'clock. Come out and hang out with us. We'll see where Atlanta United gets drawn. We might throw a mic in front of you to get your reaction as well. We will have a reaction show, probably a short hitter tonight after the draw is laid out. So, other things happened over the weekend that I wanted to touch on. Let's start with the official stuff, the news portion. You've got some interesting things that could affect a few different MLS teams and how they build for 2020. Orlando City is one that's in the middle of this, and you do have to remember now with Oscar Pereja in charge, you've got a manager who can draw in talent. Luis Mozzi, respected executive, can draw in talent. And now you've got 2 players that Orlando is linked to that reportedly are going to be available. On the news portion of this, Independiente Medellin announced that Germán Cano, who was going into the end of his contract, they had kept re-upping him for another 6 months. It was a really weird situation. It's like they wouldn't fully commit to the guy, but he just kept going out and scoring goals. He scored 31 in 35 matches in all competitions in 2019. Independiente Medellin announced that he will not be returning to the club. Orlando had been linked to him. RSL's been linked to him. Minnesota has been linked to him, which is a newer one. It's going to be a free transfer. His value was just under $4 million, but at 31 years old, free transfer, so you're not having that affect the cap. You might be able to get him for a TAM deal, all in. Any of those 3 teams could use him, but Orlando, if you add Cano up top, you're going to be a much, much stronger team. And Pereja, coming from Colombia and his connections and his respect level in Colombia, he can attract top talent from that league. Now, Cano's not Colombian, but he's played in that league for a long time. Pereja is going to be a name that is respected with Cano's people. Another player that is going to respond to Oscar Pereja being in charge of Orlando is Andres Pereja, the defensive midfielder from Atlético Nacional. Now, we've talked about the rumors with him coming to MLS, and Orlando's been linked to him from the beginning. He's born in Tampa, so he's not going to count as an international player. 19 years old, Pilar Velázquez of Caracol Radio is reporting that it will be a 1-year loan with an option to buy. No-brainer. If that's what's on the table for Orlando, no-brainer. You take the loan, you bring him in. That gives you a little more time in terms of managing cap and acquisition costs and all those types of things. No-brainer. You add those 2 guys to Orlando, you've improved a good bit in 2020. Other news that's out there, New York Red Bulls transferred Michael Murillo. He is headed to Anderlecht in Belgium. It's a big club to go to. Dylan Butler's reporting, and Dylan Butler writes for MLSsoccer.com and a number of other outlets, reporting that it was a 6-figure deal, has the opportunity to expand to over $1 million based on performance or sell-on fee. And he also reports that the Red Bulls will get, quote, close to the $750,000 GAM amount that you get in these kinds of deals. See how close, but this is going to give them some money to work with. Murillo wasn't happy there. He had fallen out of favor by the end. Reese Buckmaster's getting starts ahead of him. You have to move him on and get something. Red Bulls finally do. What about Aaron Long? What about Kaku? 2 other players who had been linked to moves and wanted to make moves, and now will they say, well, you made the move happen for him. We want to move. Does that continue this rebuild that is going on now at Red Bulls? We'll have to see. Dallas gets their number 6, Thiago Santos from Palmeiras. Is he going to play at the 6 ahead of Brian Acosta? Does that move Brian Acosta to the 8? What does that do for the teenagers, Edwin Cerrillo, Brandon Cervania? I also think that if you are in the market for a holding midfielder, Ja'Cory Hayes is probably the odd man out. You know, Hayes is a player I don't think is going to benefit as much from going to North Texas and playing in League One. I also think he's a player who can drop into most MLS teams in the midfield and contribute to you. So Ja'Cory Hayes becomes a player that you're looking to bolster your central midfield. You're giving Dallas a call. And the big one here, the rumors about Patrick Vieira. You know, first it was Miami, and it was reportedly going to happen. Then Arsenal came into the mix, and Patrick Vieira was asked about the Arsenal stuff. And this is what Vieira told Canal Plus in France. He said, "You can never ignore a club where you spent 9 years. But honestly, I'm focused on this project at Nice. I feel very good here. It's a very exciting project. I've always said that I'm happy in Nice. We're all working to move the club forward, and there's potential." They finished 7th in his first year. They're in 13th right now, but they're only 5 points out of a Champions League spot. Doesn't sound like he's going anywhere, John.
No. And, you know, that adds depth to conversations both here on this show and over on Soccer Over There as to what's going to happen or what may or may not happen with Patrick Vieira. Michael Ruiz has a thought about Cano. He says he saw Cano play in February when he was down in Medellin. Very good player, definitely would do well in MLS. Also, his salary, according to the local guide who took me to the game, said he was making about $360,000 US with a free move. Definitely worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to take the local guide, Michael, on the salary number, you know, for the gospel, but I would assume at the worst you're going to get him for a low TAM amount. You know, he's going to be looking for more money coming here because there's more money in the league, but you're not going to have that transfer fee. So it's a no-brainer. And this is the production. I'm surprised that he's not coming back. I don't know the whole situation with Independiente Medellin and how they've kind of jerked him around a little bit in terms of not wanting to commit to him long-term. But it's going to benefit somebody in MLS, and this is where the growth of MLS puts them in a different position. You know, you've got players who maybe in the past would have said, nah, it's not really the move I need to make, but now you're going to get paid and you're going to be playing at a high level. And it's just a no-brainer for a lot of guys who are at this point in their career. Some of the rumors that are out there right now, Sasha Kljestan expected to sign with the LA Galaxy today, according to Kevin Baxter of the LA Times. Can't imagine it's a big deal. You know, he's going to be a depth piece in that midfield. He goes back home. You know, he's a California guy, so it makes sense. I just wonder what the size of the deal will be. I don't think there's heavy expectations on the Galaxy side for it. A player that there would be heavy expectations for are Puebla's Canadian forward Lucas Cavallini, reportedly headed to Vancouver, according to ESPN's John Sutcliffe. Headed to Montreal, allegedly, is Canadian defensive midfielder, 22 years old, Steven Eustachio, who is at Cruz Azul. Cruz Azul would keep a percentage of his next sale, according to the reporting that's out there. So you've got Montreal teams, or you've got Montreal expected to get one. You've got Vancouver expected to get one. Galaxy are going to get Kljestan. We talked about Perea going to Orlando City. Another player who's not linked to a club specifically, and Felipe Cardenas of The Athletic speculated that maybe Atlanta could be in the mix for this player, and he fits the profile of something Atlanta United needs, is Esteban Rolon. He is a 24-year-old holding midfielder who plays for Malaga in Spain in the second division. Came through Argentinos Juniors, made his first team debut in 2016, moved to Malaga the following year, but he hasn't been playing. He's valued at just over $1 million on Transfermarkt, so it's not a major transfer to get this done. He was on loan last season at Genoa in Italy. They stayed up. He was part of that. But if there's no future for him at Malaga, and you might be able to get him on loan with an option/obligation to buy, and it doesn't sound like it would be a very large deal to make happen, could easily see a player like that come into this league. And again, this is another one where in the past, 24-year-old Argentine who is in Spain might say, that's too big of a drop for me. I think that gap is not what it used to be in people's minds anymore. So
No.
Come here and get that playing time and then potentially move back. Huge opportunity.
Yeah, of all of those rumors, the one that was the most intriguing to me was Cavallini to Vancouver, because we've consistently said that Vancouver, Marc Dos Santos, has the most work to do because right now they're just not very good. And bringing in someone like Cavallini, when I heard Cavallini linked to Vancouver, I'm like, oh, okay. So
he hasn't gone to Vancouver, it's rumored.
No, but linked. But if this does go down, that does add some Palace intrigue for me when it comes to what Marc Dos Santos is able to do with the purse strings in Vancouver if this goes down.
Well, I don't even know how much Marc Dos Santos is affecting it, to be honest. This is where you get back to Vancouver, and the big issues is, who's calling the shots. They've went through some front office turmoil in the last year. Who is doing it? Is it Dos Santos who is leading the way? Does he have somebody that he's reporting to who is really making the decisions and Dos Santos is providing input? We don't really know. And it's showing right now with the quality of that roster. It's not where it needs to be. So what Vancouver ends up being in 2020, a lot of that's going to be determined by how this season or this offseason goes for them. Cavallini would be a great player to add. Can't be the only one because they've got a lot of different holes that they're going to have to fill. That's just one of them that needs to get filled. Let's take a quick break, come back, get into the Twitter timeline a little bit more, along with a little bit on the U.S. Soccer board meeting that happened over the weekend. There were a lot of different things that came out of it that it sounds like people need to get on the same page, and if they're all working in the same building, this wonderful old house in Chicago where they want everybody to be working so they have all these, levels of communication handled, they might need to work on that a little bit because people are saying different things and it's not looking good. Let's take a break. Be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, December 9th edition. U.S. Soccer had a board meeting over the weekend, and different things have come out of this, kind of all over the place, and I think more is expected to be coming out of this. I will recommend it again. I know I've mentioned it many times. Soccer America is definitely an outlet that you need to be subscribed to in these kinds of moments. They have the institutional knowledge that is necessary to truly understand what is going on here, how it has gotten to this point is maybe the biggest question. And they get it. And Paul Kennedy and his crew at Soccer America is a must follow during this kind of reporting that's going on. A couple things from them in the build up to all of this. So there was a lot of the board meeting that was behind closed doors, but there was some that was public, and then there was roundtable stuff that happened as well. Going into the build up to this, great 1v1 interview at Soccer America with Anson Dorrance. This is part of their Confidential series. This is worth your subscription on its own. People unfiltered talking about whatever is affecting them in the game. And Anson Dorrance, if you don't know, nearly led North Carolina to another college title last night on the women's side. They came up short in penalties to Stanford, and we're going to get into that with Jarrett Smith here in just a bit, because I think Jarrett has a new goalkeeper that he is a very big fan of at Stanford. Yeah. But Anson Dorrance, when asked about his opinion on Ernie Stewart being in charge of the women's side after the promotion going to sporting director from men's general manager, Anson Dorrance said, "I was absolutely pissed off. That is absolutely ridiculous. In this era, for someone to make that extraordinarily sexist decision is beyond belief. I mean, where the hell have they been to make that kind of decision? It angers me." And he went on to explain, he said, he doesn't have an understanding of the women's game in this country. He said, not that he will deliberately do a miserable job. Of course he won't. But he has enough on his plate as it is. Expletive. We've got to revive that side of the house. He's got his hands full. So to give him an additional responsibility, are you friggin' kidding me? No, let him do that side. Now, I think Dorrance makes a good point here, and this is something that is lost in the shuffle because of the issues on the men's side and the issues at the federation level. He said, we're in wonderful shape, talking about the women's side, but we need to concentrate on ourselves. Obviously, Jill's team going right through the heart of Europe to win the 2019 World Cup is an extraordinary statement about the United States, but still, the Europeans are on the rise. We need to focus on staying on top, so let us do our thing. So I agree with him in the sense that now what you've done is you've put on paper, now maybe it doesn't work out this way, and honestly I'm kind of assuming that it's not going to work out this way, but you've moved Ernie Stewart from overseeing the men's team to overseeing more. You've added Kate Markgraf to oversee the women's program, and according to what Stewart said about the men's general manager job that they'll be hiring for, it is bigger than it was originally intended to be, which is another bad set of planning by U.S. Soccer because they didn't understand the true scope of the role. Ernie Stewart originally was not intended to have anything to do with the youth side. Now it sounds like they're basically getting rid of the youth technical director, which they didn't have to get rid of because he left, Tab Ramos, and they're going to fold the men's youth national teams under the men's general manager's purview, and they'll do the same on the women's side. That's an area that on both sides it has to get better. They have to make some hires. They have to actually hire some coaches. The fact that you haven't been able to hire some coaches is unbelievable. So that has to get done. But on paper, you're taking somebody from a job that needs a lot of oversight right now and moving him into a job where he would be overseeing something else entirely on top of what he was already overseeing. I don't think it's actually practically working that way. I think Ernie Stewart is probably spending a whole lot more time on the men's side, but Dorrance has a point. So that takes us to this weekend's board of directors meeting. This was in Chicago. The thing that blew my mind about all of it was differing comments from people. That's what I don't get is when you have Carlos Cordero talking about the whole idea of all the coaches being in Chicago. And that was it's a huge element. It's why Dave Vandenberg left the program, did not want to make that move to Chicago. Carlos Cordero admitted that, hey, maybe we've messed up here. Maybe we should have phased this in, or maybe we're going to have to look at it differently. But then you get Ernie Stewart saying something completely different. And it's like, what is going on? You guys are in the same place to allegedly improve the communication. Why are you two on different pages? Like, Ernie Stewart was talking about how, this is critical to be in the same place. And you've got his boss, Carlos Cordero, kind of saying, well, maybe not. What? I mean, the most basic of basic things. Why is this happening this way? Why would you get to this point? Cordero floated the idea of multiple training centers around the country. And Caitlin Murray has some great stuff on this over at yahoo.com. But then Ernie Stewart saying, no, all the coaches need to be under the same roof. And what Ernie Stewart said, and the exact quote where he compares the national team to a club, is where it's, really? This is how we're going to do this? Do you remember what Bruce Arena said? Bruce Arena said it was being managed like a club, and that was a big problem. Why is now the sporting director for U.S. Soccer, who's overseeing everything, talking about the benefits of managing this like a club? Do we not get that this is not a good situation? I mean, Carlos Cordero says the reality is this is a massive country. We are as big, if not bigger, than all of Europe together. We are one federation for all of that. So, do we have one training center? Do we have multiple training centers? Don't assume that everything is going to be in one location. It could be in one location. It could be in 3 or 4 locations. It's a compromise between having everybody together versus the reality. But then Stewart says that it's better to have everybody together because that's how clubs do it. What? What? You're going into a board meeting. Can't you guys get on the same page?
I'm still stuck with the idea, and we've talked about it before on the show, where, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't one of the tenets for being considered as a coach relocation to Chicago?
It's not a tenet, it's a demand. That's the whole point. That's what we're saying.
It's just it drives me insane that you want to minimize the pool of interested candidates by sitting there saying, no, you can't do things in an environment where you can get things done. You have to pick up, you have to relocate, you have to go to Chicago, you have to be under this roof. You can't do it the way that you have been. You have to come and be in our place, and you have to do it. You have to do it here in the office on the second floor back in the corner. You can't do it from where you've established all of your relationships in the past.
Well, I don't know if establishing relationships in the past, if that necessarily affects it. I mean, I'm just looking at it from a logical standpoint. Like, why are you basing where coaches are going to be based off an office as opposed to a training facility? Last time I checked, coaches are probably better served to be where there's fields. You're not going to have a training center in Chicago, going back to the weather that we've talked about, because there's going to be large portions of the year that you can't use it. Ernie Stewart said, I know of no single club in the world that has success with coaches scattered all over the place. In my view, if you really want to create an identity and style of play, you need people together to talk about it. Is it ideal that we don't have fields outside? No, I get it, except it's the next best thing. I just completely and utterly disagree. It's not. Like, having these coaches in the building to talk about these things, yeah, in 1986, that was a great thing. But even still, they were actually at places where you had fields outside and you could go talk about it and then actually go be about it. But anyway, today, is it really critical for all of the youth national team coaches that are not working, honestly, not working 24/7, 365 in an office. Is it critical for them to be in the same place? Have we heard of modern technology where you can actually have, video conferences, video chats, you can get up in front of a whiteboard, you can do lots of different things now that maybe you couldn't before and actually have coaches based where, I don't know, they could coach?
Yeah, and they can be successful. Yeah, and do their jobs.
No, it's not be successful. I mean, that's not the conversation. It's the setup. Like, could they be successful doing this? I guess maybe, but is it logistical? Is it efficient to have these coaches move to Chicago and then when they have a camp, go move somewhere else and go do the camp for an extended period of time? If they are going to go out and scout, all right, they're going to be out on the road. Why does it matter where they're located?
Exactly.
Why are you dealing with that? Like, for a coach in this country, it shouldn't matter. I don't think it does in many countries. If you are a small country where you can scout the country from one location, a couple hours drive, which this way and that, cool. Different conversation entirely. It's not the case here. A person's going to be traveling anyway. They're going to be all over the place. So why are we worried about where they are? If you have to set in the, requirements for the job that they have to spend, 3 months of the year in Chicago or whatever, and it's divided up, or they have to be, available for coaching conferences or coaching meetings or what have you in Chicago, if that's where you're going to have them, all that's good. Whatever you want to do with that, fine. It's all good. But it's a dumb thing to get hung up on if you're Ernie Stewart about where the coaches are going to be based. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And the bigger thing, I mean, this is where you want to get into logistics. So, Carlos Cordero said, U.S. Soccer has grown from about 80 people on staff to 180 over the last 7 years. Projected to go up to, nearly 300 in a matter of a few years. All right. And this is the quote. Up until very recently, we still managed U.S. Soccer like it was some 50-person organization run out of some kitchen. Not to be disparaging, but U.S. Soccer House is a little bit like that, right? Well, U.S. Soccer House is where they're based. That's their HQ. It's literally a house. It's a 19th century Chicago mansion that's been home to the Federation since the 90s. It's not the 90s anymore. It's nowhere near the 90s anymore. It's not 50 people. It's not 80 people. It's 180 people right now. It's going to get bigger. When the head of the organization is saying the whole idea was moving everybody to Chicago because it was the best place for all this communication to happen, which isn't happening, but it's supposed to be. Cordero says, talking about the house, it's a lovely old house, but it's not the most conducive to meeting. We don't have meeting rooms. We're taking offices and cutting them into 4 and putting dividers up because we're running out of space. Don't tell the fire people that. Ugh. But we're probably on the edge of a violation. Can we get into the modern day now? Can we move past this? Seriously? This is where we're at. This is where U.S. Soccer's at. You don't have enough space in the building you're in. You haven't created any kind of a plan to actually change that. They've selected Cushman & Wakefield, a real estate brokerage firm, to lead the search for leased office space within Chicago. Why didn't you do that 5-10 years ago? Like, why is this not happening? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable that this is where you're at. And it's unbelievable that you would think that the best way to improve on the field is to bring your coaches into that environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even that you're bringing them into a good environment. You're not bringing them into a big headquarters building. They're going to have plenty of space. They're going to have, video room. They're going to have, all these different rooms where they can watch film, where they can break things down, where they can have their coaches' meetings and conversations. No, you're putting them into a kitchen. You're putting them into a bedroom that's been cut into 4 and it's got dividers up, and you're expecting them to be able to work efficiently. You're not even bringing them into a central location that is conducive to quality work. You're bringing them into a bad situation that the head of the organization is saying, don't tell the fire people that, but we're probably on the urge of a violation. That's what you're bringing these people into. And that's why you get all of those, and I mean all of those, anonymous bits of feedback from Glassdoor. And the Federation finally did something to get more feedback from employees, and they've said it's been enlightening and all these different things. Good. When you have people working in a bad work environment, and being in a crowded space is a bad work environment, that's what happens. When you have people that are creating a toxic environment, this is what happens. And this is what you've decided you want to bring your coaches into for no quantifiable reason. So it's not as simple as, well, they got fields other places. It's not as simple as where they've been based other places. You're not even bringing them into a good work environment. You're forcing them to come into a bad work environment that's already overcrowded. So,
join U.S. Soccer. Come work at a fire hazard.
There are so many different things wrong here, and this is not even getting into the budget stuff. People, and I get it, and I understand why the tweets were crafted this way. The whole thing about the reserve fund being dwindled down over the years, that was going to happen anyway. I hope people understand that. They are a nonprofit agency. They're not built to have a gigantic reserve fund at all times. You're gonna buy that down. You're gonna use it on things. You're gonna invest. That's all fine, and you have a plan to do it. And they had a plan to do it. That's good. That's proper. Now it's been accelerated because of mounting legal costs, and the one that is maybe the bigger question about this is the legal case with the North American Soccer League. That, I mean, at this point, I don't know what the North American Soccer League is going to get out of this except for money for whoever's still left at the table, which I guess is the Cosmos. But if they're going to join another league, would that kind of take them out of this conversation? I don't know. It would seem like you might be able to settle this at this point because I don't think there's anybody else at the table, but I don't know. You're about to get into discovery, which is where legal cases get pretty expensive. As we've said many times, you have the very complicated case with the U.S. women's national team that is not as cut and dried as just flat-out equal pay, because you've got salary, you've got benefits on one side on the women, and you don't have that on the men. It is a complicated situation. But I think, ignorant way that it's been handled at times by the Federation has created this situation. When you're having all these things mount up and you're having these costs mount up, it's probably time to start prioritizing. And it's probably time to start saying, do we want to keep fighting everything, or is there a way to settle? Is there a way to move forward and just end it and stop adding on to these costs and deal with it? Because you're going to end up paying the women more money. There were plenty of reasons why, and we've broken them down many times, of things that there's no excuse for not paying the women the same amount of money as the men. The thing you're going to have to figure out is you're not going to be able to guarantee the same amount in a bonus if the men won the World Cup, if the women won the World Cup, because it's not the same bonus money. That's a complicated situation. You're going to have to figure out, are you going to keep the women on a salary? You're going to keep a pool of players on a salary and with benefits, and then how does that affect the bonus money that they would get or the money they would get for camps? Do you figure out a way to handle that? Just figure it out. Just do it. There's no reason for this to keep dragging on anymore. There's no reason for it to be a court case. There's no reason for it to be in this situation anymore. Not when you're hemorrhaging money on legal fees. And no, the U.S. Soccer is not going to go out of business anytime soon. Don't get that impression either. But there's no reason to keep wasting money on lawyers. There's not. Not when you know you're gonna handle this, because you're gonna have to. Just handle it. Just be an adult. Handle it. Get it done. The NASL thing's more complicated, but I don't know where that even stands at this point with teams that have went out of business, teams that have joined other leagues. I don't know where it stands anymore. I don't know where that's going to go. So I don't know. But it's not a good situation with U.S. soccer at this point, and I really am just tired of new things being added to a bad situation because it feels like every time something comes out, there's another thing to add to the list. And I hope that at some point they can get past this because it will limit the growth of soccer in the country. I mean, the biggest thing is, let's get real. You got a big freaking party to plan for in 2026. Giant, huge. And the quote that comes from Carlos Cordero is what scares me. We're close to finalizing a strategy for the first phase of the organization, talking about the 2026 World Cup, which is the period that will cover the selection of the 16 venues. You all know we have 23 on the short list. It's a tough task to go from 23 to 16. That is likely to take up most of next year and the very early part of 2021. So you're close to finalizing a strategy for the first phase, which is this. That's going to take you into early 2021. There's a whole lot of other things to do with hosting a World Cup. Lots and lots of things to deal with. And you don't even have the strategy for finalizing the venue list yet? Really? You might need to have like one room. You might need to have the upstairs bedroom, work on that part, that phase, and have the downstairs den space in this great mansion in Chicago work on, I don't know, the commercial structure, the logistics, everything else that goes into hosting a World Cup. This was the big thing that held everything up with U.S. Soccer, hiring Greg Berhalter, all the different things. And it should. It's hosting a World Cup. It's a huge boon for the game in this country. It's going to be massive. It's going to grow things in a huge way. It's done correctly. Right now, it's not being done correctly. It's not an easy thing to do. And to be doing it step by step like this and not being able to have multiple things happen at a time because I guess one bedroom can't communicate with another bedroom, you've got a problem here. And it's got to get solved. I don't know. I mean, add it to the list. That was another one you can add to the list. You can add the legal fees to the list. You can add this to the list. You can add the get on the same page when it comes to where coaches are going to work on the list. You can add the whole avoiding a violation with the fire marshal to the list. You can add the calculating ages on a chart to the list because Ernie Stewart made a presentation and Sunil Gulati called him out on it because of the way like average ages was calculated on different things, which is true and kind of silly that you would even try to slide this by everybody, but okay. It's a long list. And it's something that somebody's got to step up. I had hopes that Carlos Cordero, with his knowledge of the organization, would do things differently, but I don't know if he's doing things differently or he's not doing things. And I don't know if he's just unable to do things, if there's other elements. Look, it's very political. It is an organization that has dramatically changed over the years from one that mainly ran youth soccer in the country to one that is now managing a giant organization with lots of moving parts. I get it. Growing pains are real, but man, you've had these growing pains for a while. You ever going to get through them? I don't know. It's a scary situation to be in. Let's take a break. Let's get Jarrett Smith on the line. Let's see what Jarrett's thinking about when it comes to U.S. soccer, but most importantly, what he's thinking about Stanford goalkeeper Katie Meyer. Because she has made the rounds, huh?
Understandably and justifiably so.
Yes. She might be joining the WWE with her trash talking. But first, she's a player that I think a lot of teams in the NWSL will be anxiously hoping to get at some point because she's a personality. I want to talk to Jarrett about that and everything else going on in Jarrett's world right after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Final segment, Soccer Down here, December 9th edition. I believe Jarrett Smith has completed his laundry, and he's able to join us.
Yeah, no cats will be killed in the making of today's episode.
I don't. I'm just going to wait and see. I'm not going to commit to that. I am going to ask you about a player that you have brought up multiple times in our chats in the women's game who lifted a title last night and talked some trash on the way to do it. I'm just going to read you the post that's on Reddit in the women's soccer subreddit. Katie Meyer appreciation post, and this is all you get. She is an absolute gangster. That's all.
Sometimes you don't need more words. For every Wright Thompson where you need 3 intro paragraphs for a story, sometimes it just takes, she is an absolute gangster, 5 words. So yeah, sometimes it just takes 5 words. Sometimes it takes 3 paragraphs. And in her case, it takes staring at the camera and, doing the zipper across the mouth. That's all it took. Or her standing over strikers.
That's what I was about to say. The one semifinal, right, where she made the save in the run of play and then just gave the bad mouth to the player who missed the penalty.
Just give him the business. Hey, I mean, when you make the save,
cut the promo.
When you make the save, you cut the promo. When you make the save, that goal mouth is not small. When you make the big save, and the striker bottles it. Looking at you, Alfredo Morelos. Man, you get up and talk that talk because you earned it. And she's backed it up in ways that I don't think people expected to see that kind of run. But it's beautiful when something like this happens. When someone goes on a tear like that and they've got the swagger to back it up, it's just an art form. And it's a weird art form, but it's fun to watch.
So then let me ask you this, and this is for both of you. What NWSL franchise would she fit in with the best?
Any of them. It doesn't matter. I mean, anybody that she's going to play. But she's a redshirt freshman, so let's hold our roll a little bit.
I hope Arthur Blank was watching.
She'll declare. She'll declare for the draft.
She's at Stanford, John. Do you know what people coming out of Stanford make generally? And do you know what people in the NWSL make? Don't think she's going to declare just yet.
Oh. I don't know. Leon comes knocking at her door.
That changes it.
Yes, it
Yes.
might not be a matter of declare. It might be a matter of I'm leaving to go get paid in France.
However, you don't get a contract just based on talking trash. I mean, she's delivered too, but this is not a player who, has been playing in national teams or anything like that just yet. So
this does put a spoiler on my Jesse Fleming for Atlanta NWSL run that I've been on for 2 years. So
sure, the development slowed a little bit. It's been good, but it slowed just a bit. The NWSL, they need players with a personality, and Katie Meyer will be that player. She continues to develop, absolutely. But also just coming out this morning from Caitlin Murray over at Yahoo. So in the closed-door session with the USSF, they declined to approve a plan proposed by the NWSL. Now remember, the NWSL has been operated by U.S. Soccer from the beginning, and this year was when that operating agreement expired. So there were a lot of questions as to, well, what's going to happen? So the first proposal from NWSL owners, U.S. Soccer has declined it. That would have seen the league become independent but receive a major funding boost from U.S. Soccer. So let me try to get this from the NWSL side, if that's true. They wanted more independence but more money. It's usually not how it works.
No.
Just saying. So U.S. Soccer said, nah. But in a surprise move, according to Caitlin Murray, U.S. Soccer offered to keep managing the league for another year while negotiations continue.
If I'm going to ask a league, if I'm going to ask the stupid question of, I'm going to do that thing where it's, hey, we're going to ask this, we're not going to get it, but we should ask it anyway because it's negotiation. If there's one organization that I'm going to ask that question to and hold out a sliver of hope that I'm going to get what I'm asking for, it's absolutely going to be U.S. Soccer, though.
But they're not throwing money around like that. Like that's in doing something, like being able to do things, maybe. But in terms of them giving you money, probably not. So the offer that NWSL owners had put to U.S. Soccer was to end the management agreement overseeing the league, but fund NWSL operations through 2028, allocating $7 million for 2020, $5 million every year after that. So U.S. Soccer offered the counter proposal to continue doing what they've been doing for another year while they work to a concrete resolution by 2021. First off, that makes a lot of sense from U.S. Soccer. Like, wow, after the last segment where there was no logic involved with U.S. Soccer about anything, this is a logical offer. This makes sense.
It does, but, even a blind squirrel finds an acorn sometimes. Hopefully it's, a sign of things to come and not an exception. I don't think that's the case, but I can spare a little optimism that U.S. Soccer can figure things out a little bit, at least in one area. I mean, you can when you look at the radial chart of strength and weaknesses, you can have one strength, I guess.
So looking ahead to tonight, Concacaf Champions League draw, what are your expectations for Atlanta United?
Pain, misery, the usual. Mostly just because...
Frozen envelopes?
I don't know if I'll go frozen envelopes.
Stop accusing CONCACAF of frozen envelopes.
I don't know if I'd go that route with frozen envelopes, but I think it's just kind of it's pessimism, and it's misplaced in a sense, and it's unreasonable pessimism. And I guess it's fear as much as anything that you're going to end up in having to go play a team from Mexico in the first round and land in a bracket where even if you get through, you have to play another Mexican powerhouse right after that. It'd be great to get a really easy draw. It's just kind of this fear pulling at the strings in the back of my head of this could be another bad draw. Like
last year, give that to LAFC though?
I mean, maybe.
LAFC gets Leon in the opening round, and they get a Liga MX side in the second round.
Why are you still accusing CONCACAF of setting the road for certain teams?
I mean, last year Atlanta was tricky. Like, you had to go to Costa Rica, which I think Matt Doyle even said last year after the first game was Atlanta went to Costa Rica and got blown off the field on a weird pitch in a weird night. It was a rite of passage for an MLS team. They ended up taking care of business in the second leg back at Fifth Third Bank, and then played what ended up being, when you look at it in hindsight, the second round ended up being one of the best anyone could have hoped for from an MLS side against that juggernaut. But it'd be great to get an easy draw this year. LAFC's draw is going to be interesting, and LAFC's reaction and how they build this offseason is going to be interesting to me because we talked about it last year. There's still a few issues with depth with LAFC, and when that schedule really compresses on them, how does Bradley deal with it? Do they have the bodies, and do they avoid the injuries to keep up the pace that they had in MLS last year? Or do things kind of get figured out? I mean, LAFC, I think, has to go into this of, hey, Concacaf Champions League, go ahead, be that team who wins the first one. Everyone wants to be the first one to climb the mountain for MLS. But, I mean, it's not just about having the talent. It's about having the depth to deal with it all, too, having the bodies and having the people who can jump in and handle the environment, because we've talked about it before. Atlanta's got the bodies, and they've got the mentality because you have so many guys who were used to CONMEBOL and CONCACAF at different levels. And I think LAFC has some of that. I just have questions about depth, but the offseason's young. They can still fix that.
The Colonel with a question about Doug's ranking over at the HAC of the Liga MX teams in CONCACAF. He went Tigres 1, Club America 2, León 3, Cruz Azul 4. I would put León 4 because 2 of their top 3 scorers might not be with them next season, and the main one, Macias, is definitely not. He's going back to Chivas. So I don't think they're going to be the same team that they were this time around. Based off how they ended the Apertura, yeah, I could see them ahead of Cruz Azul, but not with the losses they're going to have. Tigres and Club America are your top 2. I think Cruz Azul's your 3. I would probably lean to Club America 1, Tigres 2, just mainly because Club America just beat Tigres, and they're a little bit bigger team than Tigres in terms of resources and just, I think they're maybe a little bit better positioned to handle this. And I also think they're going to have the motivation after losing Campeones Cup. So America, Tigres 1-2, it's pretty close. I'll go the Águilas first, but Cruz Azul would be 3 for me and León 4.
Atlanta and Club America in a 2-leg matchup in CONCACAF Champions League in the second round or beyond would be like watching 2 people in a linen closet try and beat each other to death with plastic flamingos. That would be ugly. It would be cripplingly amazing. You can't sit here and tell me Club America isn't going to want to give Atlanta the business, and Atlanta's going to go out there and try and show them that it wasn't a fluke. I'm here for that game. That's a rock fight over 180 minutes, and I kind of need that to happen. If it would happen in the third round, that'd be cool. Let's not run into them right away. But I'm kind of here for Club America and Atlanta United doing this again.
All right, Curry Cole Smith with the question that
yes,
I'm going to get answers from both of you guys on. Who is the Atlanta United club legend that will attend the CONCACAF Champions League draw today? It was mentioned in the press release that you'd have, coaches, members of staff, but also club legends that would be there. Says, assuming it's not an active player, I'd like to see Michael Parkhurst or club legend Bobby Boswell.
Kenwyne Jones demands your respect.
Kenwyne would actually be a good one.
Yeah, especially if you end up playing somebody from the islands.
No, Trinidad, they don't have any teams in it.
Oh, that's right. They don't have a team. I'm sorry. I know Jamaica does, though. Trinidad doesn't have a team this year.
Do Atlanta United.
Well, Romario was one.
Yeah, current somewhere else. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Clint Irwin?
No, John. He was here for like an hour after a draft.
Yeah, club legend.
No, not a club legend. It's not funny. No. Bobby Boswell played like 6 minutes.
Would make sense.
Parkhurst is
Bobby Boswell almost scored one of the most important goals in Atlanta United's first season when he had a ball cleared off the line in the last game against Toronto. A scramble of a corner kick
in his Toronto 6 minutes of fame. That was it.
Yeah, And tell me you wouldn't have been a legend at that point, because that probably puts Atlanta in a first-round bye in 2017. I think it does, actually.
I think it would have put them second.
Then Boswell would be live tweeting from the entire draw. He'd be on the dais, and he'd just be live tweeting the entire time.
I'm here for that. He probably starts a TikTok account without it telling anybody.
But it would be
probably
cool.
do it for him.
Yeah, it would be cool though if Cap was down there for the draw. I think that'd be really cool.
Kind of the obvious one. I
don't know. Is Tata free?
That's actually not a bad one. Very well could be. And if he's in Mexico, that would actually be interesting. I don't know if you want to do that because probably Frank's there and all that. It could be an awkward situation for both of them, even though it doesn't need to be. It could be. I think it's Parky. If for some reason it's not,
for Darren,
who
you have Darren to go?
Well, yeah, but that's different because you're going to have staff there and you're going to have probably Frank there, and that's how these things go. Club legend, right now is Parkhurst. Out of somebody who's not a current player, I don't think it's going to be Kyle Rainish. I don't think it's going to be Kenwin Jones.
Jeffrey O2.
He never played for the first team. Not happening. It's got to be somebody who played for the first team to be a club legend. And I don't know if he can get off from Atlanta SC training either.
Some Bacchus?
Probably not.
In any case, whoever it is, I hope it's a good draw. It'd be fun to go somewhere other than Costa Rica, I'm sure, for everybody. Go see Milan.
Give me San Carlos. Give me San Carlos. I'll be very happy if you get San Carlos and you're going up against, I believe by the time it starts, he will be 38-year-old Costa Rican legend Alvaro Saborio. Scored 13 goals this season for them. I mean, he's carried them. This is a team that was in the second division in 2017. They returned in 2018 to the top flight. They've won one Costa Rican title in the Clausura in 2019. That's it. I'll take San Carlos. We'll go face the Los Toros del Norte, the Bulls of the North. I'm in.
Well, I mean, we've got the travel plans figured out, going into San Jose last time, so we know where to go and know where to stay and know where to eat.
This is not in San Jose, John.
You'd fly into San Jose, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but you're not going to be based in San Jose. This is in Ciudad Quesada, in the north of the country.
Okay, so how far away is? See,
now
you're going to have
not do
Google
math
Maps now.
because I don't know if we're going to be drawn with them yet. But no, it's not in San Jose. They are the only team from the northern part of the country to ever win the Costa Rican League. So I will take a team like that's never been here before, and this past year relied on 37-year-old Alvaro Saborio and 36-year-old Jairo Arrieta, who also played in MLS, to score 19 of your goals. I'll take my chances with a veteran team like that, beyond a veteran team.
I wouldn't mind playing a team like that, and then second round you end up matched up with I think in the second round you can match up with interleague teams. So if you ended up with Montreal in the second round.
Well, that and Montreal's not considered interleague because it's a different country, the way CONCACAF has to look at it. Yeah, that would be the ideal, is if you get San Carlos or Portmore in the first round. Montreal gets the other one, so they go through, and then you play Montreal in the quarterfinals because you'd like your chances early on in their season. Then you're in a semifinal against a heavyweight. That would be probably the best draw you could get.
Yeah.
Unless there's an upset in the round of 16, obviously.
James McClatchy came in again with our U.S. soccer discussion. He says, for what it's worth, U.S. soccer industrial psychology teaches that numbers for human organizations at a single site should remain below 100 to have a team feeling and best communication. What Jason is describing fits that.
It's like 180-something people in a house that is probably not set to have that many people in it. It's a bad situation all the way around.
I just have no expectations with U.S. Soccer right now. I don't ever know what to expect with them. I just kind of stuff comes up and I look at them like, okay, that's the thing y'all did. All right, I'm not going to sit here and try and I'm done trying to think up dumb things for y'all to do. I'm just going to sit here and wait for y'all to do them. It's not worth the stress in my life. I got better things to do than worry about U.S. Soccer. Trying to think up what U.S. Soccer is going to do wrong next. I'll wait for them to hopefully get something right.
Daniel Price wants to know if maybe they could just hire another Berhalter brother. Does one exist?
I don't know, and they haven't hired Jay Berhalter to be the CEO yet, and it sounds like they're not going to. They went through a round of interviews, and Carlos Cordero said that there were internal candidates. He didn't go into detail. They went through another round of interviews and hired a different search firm to broaden the reach, which, then Cordero was asked, well, does that mean there are still internal candidates? And he didn't specify, which makes sense. But I would think it's a fair conclusion that if they weren't happy with the first round of people, that either they wanted more options before they make a decision, or the people who were involved in the first round are not involved in the second. So it's not a guarantee that Jay Berhalter is going to be the guy. I think after everything that's happened, even if he is the top candidate, and by all accounts, he's done a good job on the business side with the organization. The money's there. I mean, he's been doing something right. But I don't think you can afford to hire him at this point. I just don't think it's going to be worth it. The level of work that he's going to give you, I don't think it's going to be worth the drama. And that's where you're at. You have to go outside the organization, I think. And with all of these internal issues that we're hearing about, I think you have to go outside the organization and do something different and try to grow that way.
Just make a Mecca Berhalter to do it. No. Only as if we could get, who's the lead singer of The Cure?
Robert Smith.
Yeah, to get Mega Robert Smith to go up against Mega Berhalter and have a big matchup there, and the winner gets to be in charge of U.S. Soccer.
No, I don't want that at all. I just want somebody who's got a clue.
For real. Yes. See, we got through a segment with Jarrett and we didn't strangle any cats.
Yeah, we're going to go before we do, because he might start strangling a cat here any moment. It's been known to happen when Jarrett's been on the line. You're off this week, right?
No, just today.
Oh, just today. Oh, well, then this will be the only time that we will talk to you until Crumpets and Espresso later in the week.
Yeah, also next week maybe.
Oh.
My diet bomb next week one day. We'll see.
Okay.
Cool.
Reasonable. All right. Well,
bye
that'll
for
do
Miami.
it for... Okay. Very cool. Like it. You can do some scouting for us. So that's going to do it for this show. Today, 6 o'clock, we'll be at the Brewhouse Cafe for soccer over there. We've got some Manchester Derby action to talk about. We've got some more idiocy when it comes to Mondays with racism in multiple countries.
Yes.
We have got some Liga MX finals to talk about that have now been delayed because Monterrey is in it, and they're leaving for the Club World Cup today. Nobody in Argentina wants to win the league title. Everybody keeps losing games. We'll talk about that and everything else going on around the world of soccer. We'll get you set for Concacaf Champions League with a pretty detailed preview of all the teams that Atlanta United could be drawn with. And then we're going to hang out at the Brewhouse and watch the draw. It starts at 9 o'clock on 2-Day NA. Come out and hang out with us, watch the draw with us. We're going to do a reaction show immediately after the draw is done. And all kinds of stuff coming for you on the SDH network. So thanks for listening. Thanks for all the questions. And thanks for all your overreactions on a Monday. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha Fraser. Forrester, y'all.
Y'all are out of practice.